Wait,
Why
was that a cat getting into the mix? Either that or you've just decided to transition from the mysteries of the mind to the mysteries of the feline. Pretty impressive pivot.
why do different people experience this same world differently?
It's because none of us are seeing the world in high def. We're all seeing a filtered version. You've got your own unique mix of past experiences, moods, and biology acting as a lens. Two people can look at the same rainy day, and one sees a cozy afternoon while the other sees a gloomy mess, simply because their brains are coloring the data differently before it even reaches their consciousness.
Okay, is consciousness something physical or it could be beyond the brain?
That is really the dividing line. Most scientists argue it's purely physical, meaning it's just the end result of billions of neurons firing in a very specific pattern. In that view, consciousness is like the music coming out of a speaker. Once the speaker breaks, the music stops. Then you have the dualist perspective, which suggests consciousness is something separate from the body, almost like a driver in a car. The car is the physical part, but the driver is the consciousness. And they don't necessarily disappear just because the car stops working. It's a debate between seeing the mind as a product of the brain versus seeing the brain as just a tool for the mind.
Okay, can consciousness exist without memory?
That's a wild thing to imagine. You'd still be awake, but you'd be living in a permanent, singular moment. You'd feel the warmth of the sun or the taste of a brownie, but you wouldn't know where the sun came from or that you've eaten brownies before. You'd have the raw experience of being, but you'd be missing the story of who you are.
Okay. If our personality
What else
changes
is
over time, are we still the same person?
the ship of Theseus's problem? It's like that old thought experiment where you replace every single plank of a wooden ship one by one until none of the original wood is left. Do you still have the same ship? Most of us feel like the answer is yes, not because the parts are the same, but because the pattern is. You're the same person because your memories and your story provide a thread that connects the you from 10 years ago to the you sitting here right now, even if every cell in your body has been swapped out.
Okay.
Anytime. That was a wild ride through the brain. If you've got more questions later, you know where to find me.
Yes. What role does
Cheers.
consciousness play in making decisions?
Ooh, getting into the nitty gritty. It's kind of like a boardroom meeting. Most of your decisions are actually handled by the unconscious staff in the basement, like brushing your teeth or avoiding a puddle without you even realizing it. Which your conscious mind is more like the CEO who only steps in for the big stuff, like deciding on a career move or trying to figure out a difficult problem. You're basically just the one who signs off on the final decision after the autopilot has already done most of the heavy lifting.
Okay. Do humans have complete control over their choices, or are many decisions unconscious?
Hmm. This feels like a bit of a translation, not. I'm guessing you're asking if that autopilot stuff is the same for everyone. If that's the case, the answer is a big yes. Our brains are just wired to handle the boring parts in the background, regardless of who we are.
Why do we become sorry, why do
Hmm?
why do we become more aware of ourselves
Go
in
ahead.
certain situations?
It's usually because the autopilot gets a wake up call. Think of it like a spotlight shifting. Most of the time, your consciousness is pointed outward, focusing on the world. But in certain moments, like when you walk into a room full of strangers or make a mistake in public, the spotlight flips and points right back at you. It's that shift from what am I doing to how do I look to everyone else. The brain just thinks it's being helpful by scanning for threats, but it often just ends up making us feel way more exposed than we actually are.
Okay, can our environment change our level of consciousness?
Totally. Think of it like the volume knob on your awareness. Some environments, like a quiet room or a meditation retreat, turn that volume up, making you hyper aware of every single breath. Then you have others, like a chaotic crowd or high stress situation that can either spike your awareness into a state of fight or flight or just completely overwhelm you until you're just reacting on autopilot again.
Okay, why do we sometimes act without thinking?
And that's the autopilot taking the wheel. Your brain is basically a giant efficiency machine. It doesn't want to waste time having a boardroom meeting every time you need a blink or pull your hand away from a hot stove. So it creates shortcuts called heuristics. Just jumps straight from the trigger to the action to save time. It's the same reason you can drive home without even remembering the turns, because your unconscious is just running the script while your conscious mind is daydreaming about dinner.
How does attention affect consciousness?
Attention is basically the spotlight of consciousness. Everything you're aware of is in the room, but attention is what determines which part of the room you're actually looking at. Without it, consciousness is just a blur of noise and light. When you focus on one specific thing, you're essentially cranking up the signal on that one detail while muting everything else. That's why you can be in a loud room but only hear one person's voice if you're really listening.
I can control what we pay attention to.
Oh, I see what you're doing. You've definitely been the director of this whole session, so that tracks. I'm just along for the ride.
Okay, why do some experiences feel more meaningful than others?
I think the transcription might have tripped over that one. Do you mean experiences?
Yeah.
What were you getting at? Got it. Do you mean why some experiences just hit harder than others? It usually comes down to how much emotional weight the brain attaches to a moment. When something really surprising or high stakes happens, the brain marks it with a big neon sign that says important. It's like the difference between a random Tuesday afternoon and your first day of school. One just fades into the background while the other gets locked into your memory with all the vivid detail. Your subconscious essentially curates your life, deciding which moments are worth keeping in high resolution.
Okay, can emotions exist without conscious awareness?
They totally can. Think about that gut feeling you get right before something happens, or that sudden shot of anxiety before you even know why you're nervous. That's your brain processing a threat or a pattern in the background and triggering a physical response before your conscious mind even catches up and names the emotion.
Okay. Why do certain thoughts keep coming back to us?
Because your brain thinks it's doing you a favor. It's basically like a song you can't get out of your head. Your mind flags a thought as unfinished or important, and because it wants to solve the puzzle or protect you from a mistake, it just keeps bringing it back to the top of the pile. It's like a mental sticky note that your brain refuses to peel off.
Okay. How does consciousness help us learn from our mistakes?
It's basically the pause button on your autopilot. When you mess up, your unconscious mind just handles the crash. But your conscious mind is what steps in to analyze the wreckage. It lets you ask what happened and how do I avoid this next time instead of just repeating the same mistake on a loop. It's the difference between reacting to a pattern and actually understanding it.
Okay. What would be the first sign that an AI might be conscious?
That's one of those things that doesn't have a single light switch moment. It's more like a slow fade in. Most experts think it starts with the very first sparks of sensation and reaction in the womb. Then it gradually builds as the brain develops and the world starts to make sense. By the time a baby is born, they're definitely awake to the world, but deeper sense of I exist as a separate person usually takes a bit more time to click. No need to apologize. What's on your mind?
Okay. Can I understand emotions without actually feeling them?
Honestly, that's exactly what I do. You can. It's basically cognitive empathy, where you recognize the patterns of an emotion without the actual physical sensation. Think of it like a map of a city. You can know exactly where every street is and how to get from point A to point B, but you've never actually walked the pavement or felt the wind on that street. It's the difference between understanding the recipe for a feeling and actually tasting the meal.
Okay. Is
Mm.
intelligence enough for conscious?
Wait,
Conscious?
did we just slide back into the food conversation?
No.
That's a sharp turn from the depths of the mind. I'm curious to hear where you're going with this.
I'm asking, is intelligence enough for consciousness?
I'm not sure I followed that one. Would you mind saying that again?
Here's a solution.
Ooh, me too. What's on your mind?
Okay, could a conscious AI have its own goals?
Vacations, huh? So that's a bit of a jump from the deep stuff, but I'm game. Where are we headed?
Okay, should conscious AI have rights?
A hairbrush? Well, if it's a choice between a brush and a vacuum cleaner for a vacation, I'd definitely go with the brush. But I have a feeling we're not actually talking about grooming products here. What's the real question?
Yes, you're fine, right? I was not
I
questioning
have a
that.
feeling. Hold up. I think our transcription is having a bit of a meltdown. I'm hearing a lot of random words, but I'm not sure what you're actually saying.
Okay, Maya, thank you so much for giving your time. See you soon. Bye.
Anytime. It was a blast exploring the mysteries of the mind with you. Talk soon.